For centuries, the alchemists toiled in secret laboratories, obsessed with a single legendary goal: to turn lead into gold. Pop culture has painted them as greedy charlatans or magicians. But what if their great work, their magnum opus, was never about physical metal? What if their strange symbols, the sun and the moon, the king and the queen, the warring dragons, were actually a secret, coded map for the deepest, most profound transformation possible for the human soul? Carl Jung believed so. He saw alchemy not as primitive chemistry, but as a complex psychological process projected onto matter. He discovered that the ultimate goal of the alchemist was not to create gold, but to achieve the Coniunctio Oppositorum, the sacred marriage of opposites. This is the final mystical stage of psychological development, the culmination of all inner work. It is the reconciliation of the warring factions within your own psyche, your light and your shadow, your logic and your emotion, your masculinity and your femininity, your conscious mind and your vast unconscious. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It is a descent into the fire of your own inner conflict. But the promise of this great work is a prize far greater than gold. It is wholeness. It is the birth of the integrated self, a state of being that is resilient, creative, and connected to the timeless core of your being. Today, we step into the laboratory of the soul. We will decode the alchemical map and discover how the ancient secret of the sacred marriage is the forgotten key to your own transformation. Every great work, the alchemists taught, begins with the prima materia, the first matter. This is the raw, unrefined, chaotic material that holds the potential for gold. In psychological terms, the prima materia is you right now. It is your current, conflicted, and divided self. It is the ordinary human experience of being pulled in 1,000 different directions by opposing forces. It is the endless war between your heart and your head, between what you feel is right and what you think is logical. It is the battle between your good side, the polite social mask you show the world, and your hidden shadow, the part of you that holds all your repressed anger, jealousy, and desires. It is the tension between your desire for security and your longing for freedom, between your need for connection and your need for independence. We often experience this inner chaos as pain, anxiety, and confusion. We see our inner conflicts as a problem to be solved, a war to be won. We try to choose a side, to suppress our emotions in favor of logic, or to deny our shadow in favor of being a good person. But the alchemist takes a radically different approach. They do not see this chaos as a flaw. They see it as the precious, essential raw material. They understand that without this initial state of conflict, no transformation is possible. Gold cannot be made from gold. It must be made from lead. Wholeness cannot be achieved by someone who is already perfect. It can only be born from the courageous act of facing your own inner divisions. The first step of this journey, therefore, is to gather your prima materia, to acknowledge, without judgment, the messy, contradictory, and conflicted reality of who you are. This is the lead you will turn into gold. The first and most fundamental pair of opposites the alchemist must unite is the king and the queen. In Jungian psychology, this is the sacred marriage of consciousness and the unconscious. The king represents the ego, the conscious mind. He is solar, masculine, active, and logical. He lives in the world of laixt, order, and reason. He seeks to control, to understand, to structure, and to build. He is the part of you that makes plans, analyzes data, and imposes its will upon the world. The queen, on the other hand, represents the unconscious. She is lunar, feminine, receptive, and non-rational. She lives in the world of darkness, dreams, intuition, and emotion. She does not operate on linear logic, but through symbols, feelings, and instincts. She is the deep, mysterious ocean of your psyche. For most of our lives, these two are in a state of separation, and often conflict. The king, ego, fears and mistrusts the queen, unconscious. He sees her world as chaotic, dangerous, and illogical. He builds walls to keep her powerful, unpredictable waves at bay. He dismisses dreams as meaningless nonsense and gut feelings as foolish distractions. He wants to be the sole ruler of the psyche. But a kingdom with only a king is a barren, desert dry, rigid, and lifeless. The first stage of the alchemical work is to facilitate a reconciliation. The king must learn to humble himself. He must turn towards the queen and learn to listen to her. This is the work of paying attention to dreams, honoring intuitions, and respecting the wisdom of emotions. It is the conscious mind learning that it is not the master of the psyche, but a partner. It must learn to receive the treasures from the deep, to integrate the queen's watery wisdom with his own fiery logic. This first union is the foundation of the entire great work. The next pair of opposites that must enter the alchemical vessel is the shadow and the light. This is one of the most difficult and courageous stages of the work. The light is our persona, the good, socially acceptable mask we wear. It is the idealized version of ourselves that we present to the world, made up of all the qualities we deem positive: kindness, intelligence, strength, generosity. The shadow, as we know, is the opposite. It is our dark side, the container for everything we repress and deny about ourselves. Our anger, our envy, our greed, our vulnerability, our raw instincts. For most of our lives, we live in a state of absolute opposition to our shadow. We pretend it doesn't exist. We project it onto others, seeing the darkness out there, in our enemies or in groups we dislike. The alchemical work demands that we stop this projection. It requires us to withdraw our judgments from the world and realize that the darkness we see outside is a reflection of a darkness we have not faced within. We must turn around and confront our own shadow. This is the alchemical stage of negredo, the blackening. It is a period of descent, of confronting uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It is painful, humbling, and often feels like a dissolution of our old, good identity. The goal here is not to defeat the shadow. To destroy the shadow would be to destroy our own vitality, our depth, and our power. The goal is to integrate it. It is the white knight shaking hands with the black knight. It is acknowledging, yes, this too is a part of me. By consciously owning our capacity for darkness, we paradoxically gain control over it. It is no longer a monster possessing us from the unconscious. It becomes a source of immense, grounded energy. This union creates a new being, one who is not innocently good, but consciously whole. With the foundations laid, the central act of the alchemical drama can begin: the sacred marriage of the animus and anima. This is the union of the inner masculine and inner feminine principles within the soul. As we've explored before, the king, or the masculine principle, animus in a woman, and the conscious ego in a man, represents logic, order, assertion, and focused consciousness. The queen, or the feminine principle, anima in a man and the deep unconscious in a woman, represents emotion, intuition, receptivity, and relatedness. In an unintegrated psyche, these two are at war. The logical king dismisses the emotional queen as irrational and chaotic. The intuitive queen sees the rational king as cold, rigid, and disconnected from life. A person dominated by their inner king might be highly successful in their career, but emotionally barren and disconnected in their relationships. A person dominated by their inner queen might be deeply empathetic and creative, but unable to assert themselves or bring their ideas into structured reality. The coniunctio is the process of bringing these two into a loving and respectful union. It is the marriage of the head and the heart. It is the king learning to value the wisdom of the queen's intuition and feelings. It is the queen learning to trust the king's ability to provide structure and clarity. When this inner marriage takes place, a new kind of being is born within. A person who can be both logical and compassionate, both assertive and receptive, both strong and vulnerable. They can think with the clarity of the sun and feel with the depth of the moon. This is not about becoming androgynous in an external sense. It is about achieving an inner psychological wholeness, where these two fundamental energies are no longer at war, but are dancing together in a creative and harmonious partnership. This sacred union is the heart of the alchemical mystery. This great work of uniting opposites cannot happen in the open, chaotic field of everyday life. It requires a special container, an alchemical vessel strong enough to hold the immense energy and heat generated by the conflict of opposites. In psychological terms, this vessel is your own conscious awareness and commitment to the process. Your ego must be strong enough and resilient enough to act as this container. This is a crucial point that is often misunderstood. The goal is not to have a weak or dissolved ego. A weak ego is a cracked vessel. It cannot withstand the pressure of the unconscious. When difficult emotions or archetypal energies emerge, a weak ego shatters, leading to psychological breakdown. Therefore, the alchemist of the soul must first be a master craftsman, building a strong vessel. How is this container built? It is built through the practice of self-reflection. Journaling, meditation, and therapy are all ways of creating and strengthening this psychic container. They create a dedicated space where you can process your thoughts and emotions without immediately acting them out. It is built through emotional regulation. This is the ability to feel a powerful emotion, anger, fear, sadness, without being completely swept away by it. It is the capacity to say, I feel anger, instead of just becoming pure blind rage. It is built through commitment. The alchemical work is a long, slow, and often frustrating process. It requires immense patience and a promise to yourself that you will not abandon the work when it becomes difficult. This vessel is what allows you to hold the tension of the opposites. It gives you a safe space to contain the warring king and queen, the clashing light and shadow, and to tend the fire of transformation without getting burned. Without a strong vessel, the great work is not only impossible, it is dangerous. But with one, you become a true alchemist, capable of consciously participating in your own profound transformation. We have the raw material, the prima materia. We have the strong alchemical vessel. Now comes the most active and difficult stage of the work, tending the fire. The alchemical fire represents the suffering and tension that comes from consciously holding the opposites together. This is the core of the transformative process. Our natural instinct, when faced with a conflict, any conflict, is to resolve it as quickly as possible. We choose a side. We suppress one feeling in favor of another. We make a decision to end the uncomfortable state of uncertainty. The alchemist does the opposite. Instead of resolving the tension, they increase it. They intentionally hold the two warring opposites in the vessel of their consciousness and allow the fire of that conflict to build. It is the act of feeling your love and your anger for the same person at the same time, without denying either. It is the act of holding your desire for security and your desire for freedom in your awareness simultaneously, without choosing. It is the act of acknowledging your highest spiritual aspirations while also consciously owning your most primitive, shadowy desires. This is incredibly difficult work. It feels like being stretched on a rack, pulled apart from the inside. It generates immense psychic heat. This, Jung says, is the fire that cooks the soul. It is this conscious, voluntary suffering that breaks down the old, rigid structures of the personality and allows for something new to be born. Most people will do anything to avoid this inner fire. They will distract themselves, blame others, or make a premature decision just to extinguish the heat of uncertainty. But the alchemist knows that the fire is the secret ingredient. They patiently tend to it, enduring the discomfort, trusting that it is this very tension that is performing the magic, transforming the hard, stubborn lead of their divided self into something new, precious, and whole. What happens when the alchemist succeeds? When the vessel holds strong and the tension of the opposites is endured long enough, something miraculous occurs. A new possibility emerges. Jung called this the transcendent function. The transcendent function is what arises spontaneously from the conflict of opposites when that conflict is held consciously. It is not a compromise. It is not one side winning over the other. It is the birth of a third thing, a new attitude, a new symbol, a new level of consciousness that transcends and unites the two opposing poles. It is the child born from the sacred marriage of the king and queen. Let's make this practical. Imagine you are torn between two choices, staying in a secure but unfulfilling job, representing security, the earth element, or quitting to pursue your artistic passion, representing freedom, the air element. You feel pulled apart by this conflict. Instead of making a quick decision, you hold the tension. You feel the fear of poverty, and the pain of a meaningless life simultaneously. You journal about it, you dream about it, you cook in the fire of this conflict. Then one day a new idea emerges, an aha moment. You realize you could start a small business that combines your practical skills with your creative passion. This idea was not present before. It is not just security, and it is not just passion. It is a new third way. This is the transcendent function at work. It is the psyche's natural ability to create a new reality out of an old conflict. This function produces symbols. It might appear in a dream as a unifying image, a winged serpent, a squared circle, a child who is both old and wise. These symbols are roadmaps from the self, showing the way forward. The transcunction is the ultimate creative process. It is how the soul grows. It is the reward for enduring the fire. It is the miracle that happens when we have the courage to stand in the pain of our own inner division and wait for the birth of something new. The culmination of the great work, the result of the successful coniunctio and the birth of the transcendent function, is symbolized in alchemy by many powerful images. The philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, or the rebus, the divine androgyne. In psychological terms, this is the realization of the integrated self. This is the lead of our fragmented, conflicted personality finally being transformed into the incorruptible gold of wholeness. What does it mean to achieve this state? It does not mean you become a perfect being, free from pain or problems. The alchemists were clear. The stone did not remove suffering. It transformed one's relationship to it. A person who has realized the self is no longer identified with the small, fragile ego. Their center of gravity has shifted to the larger, timeless core of their being. They have a new foundation. They are no longer a ship tossed about by every wave, but have become the ocean itself. They possess a quiet confidence that does not depend on external validation. They have a deep sense of purpose, feeling themselves to be a conscious participant in a meaningful cosmic drama. They are able to hold the opposites within themselves without being torn apart. They can be both strong and vulnerable, both logical and compassionate, both solitary and deeply connected. They have healed the split between their conscious mind and the vast wisdom of the unconscious. They have, in a sense, created their own inner source of salvation. The philosopher's stone is not an external object to be found. It is an internal state of being to be cultivated. It is the result of the most difficult and courageous work a human can undertake. The conscious journey into the depths of their own soul to unite the warring gods within. It is the fulfillment of your unique potential, the process of becoming the whole, complete, and indivisible person you were always meant to be. The great work is complete. The sacred marriage has been consummated. The philosopher's stone has been created. What now? The goal of alchemy and of the individuation process is not to escape the world, but to participate in it more fully, more consciously, and more effectively. The Coniunctio Oppositorum is not a one-time event that leads to a static state of perfection. It is a new way of living. It is a lifelong attitude of maintaining a creative and dynamic dialogue between the opposites. A person who has done this work does not stop having problems. They still face conflict, loss, and suffering. But their relationship to these challenges is fundamentally transformed. They no longer meet conflict by repressing one side of themselves. Instead, they hold the tension, trusting that a new, transcendent solution will emerge. They bring the wisdom of the alchemical vessel into their daily lives. They live in constant, conscious relationship with their inner world. Their actions in the outer world become infused with the wisdom of their soul. They become a living bridge between the conscious and unconscious, the spiritual and the material. They have, in essence, learned how to create gold from the lead of everyday experience. This is the ultimate secret of the alchemist. The transformation of the soul is the only transformation that truly matters. By uniting the opposites within, you do not just heal yourself. You become a source of healing and wholeness for the world around you. You have completed the Magnum Opus. You have achieved the sacred marriage. And from this union, a life of profound meaning, purpose, and unshakable inner peace is born. The great work is not over. It is now how you live.